It's been over 2 years since we last toured at what is now known simply as the Fort Wayne Zoo, but we're finally back to wrap up my coverage of nearly the entire zoo, since after today's tour, we will have covered everything except for the Indiana Family Farm. We started with the random but fun and kid-centric Zoo Central, then walked through one of the nation's better Australia attractions with the Australian Adventure, and most recently we saw some of the zoo's newer additions in the Asian Trek, which leaves us with the African Journey. This area of the zoo originated as an expansion known as the African Veldt. Plans were announced in 1971 and the complex opened in 1976. My memories are a bit foggy, but I did experience the African Veldt a few times as a kid. I couldn't find much information about the Veldt online, but I do remember that giraffes and leopards were already here, and there was already a central mixed species savanna, allegedly one of the first of its kind. There was a boardwalk section, but to view the entire area you had to hop in a safari jeep. I also recall there being warthogs and painted dogs, two species that were not retained when the area closed in 2007, received a $9 million overhaul, and reopened in 2009 as the African Journey, the largest project in the zoo's history. This is the first zoo exhibit that I really remember when it opened and seeing it for the first time. In the 16 years since, there has been quite a bit of shuffling around of species, but the habitats themselves have changed very little. On our journey, we'll meet residents of Africa's wetlands, kopjes, forest, and savannas in what I consider to be one of the most complete African zoo exhibits you'll come across. So with that very long intro out of the way, let's begin. Though it is the last of the zoo's 3 offshoots from the Zoo Central that we're touring, the African Journey is the first one you'd come across after entering the zoo. Just past the capuchin monkeys and Canadian lynx is the inviting tunnel, ready to transport you to a new adventure. After you exit the tunnel, there is a few more twists and turns before you reach the animal habitats, but the African Journey makes its first welcoming impression with small waterfalls, trickling streams, gardens, and periodic mist that sets the tone for the level of landscaping and immersion you can expect from here on out. The real fun begins when you reach a fork in the path. On the right is the Sky Safari, the African Journey's designated ride that was a highlight of some of my visits when I was younger, but I don't usually bother to ride it anymore since it doesn't actually take you that close to any of the animals. To the left marks the start of the Safari Trail, where the rest of our journey will take place. As the path transitions to a boardwalk, the left side offers a view of a well-shaded yard with a pond at the front. The fog from the entry pathway extends to in and around this habitat, and on one of my visits I caught the perfect timing as the fog completely covered the exhibit, creating that perfect eerie swamp setting, which is appropriate for the swamp-dwelling Sitatunga. The Sitatunga's long splayed hooves are especially adapted to walking on soft, muddy terrain. They are excellent swimmers and will flee to water, even completely submerging everything but their nostrils to avoid predators or for relief from pesky flies. Sitatunga are threatened by hunting and loss of their swamp habitat in their native range, but can still be found in over 25 countries across West Central Africa, and for now are a species of least concern. As of 2024, I believe Fort Wayne was home to all females, but they have had success breeding Sitatunga in the recent past. If you want to get an even closer encounter with these unique antelope, then you're in the right place, since the zoo offers daily Sitatunga feedings, which you can sign up for on their website. Behind the right half of the Sitatunga habitat, make note of that view in the distance, which we'll swing back to later, but for now we're continuing down the path away from the mist to our second stop. What used to be a standard caged habitat was spruced up recently with the addition of glass viewing along the front, offering your chance to get up close and personal with another swamp resident, the aptly named Alan's Swamp Monkey. As one of the zoo's individuals was showing off on my last visit, swamp monkeys don't just live near water, but are at home in the water itself. They even have some webbing between their fingers and toes, and will dive in to escape predators much like the Sitatunga. The water can be a food source as well, since fish are one of the many things that make up a swamp monkey's diet. They even lure fish to the surface using leaves as bait. Alongside fish, snails, shrimp, insects, and other invertebrates make up 20% of their diet, while the rest is composed of leaves, fruit, nuts, nectar, and blossoms. Swamp monkeys are very social, with troops being recorded with as many as 57 members. While you won't find that many swamp monkeys here, from experience this will likely be one of the highlights along the trail, since this habitat always seems to be home to playful youngsters. Past the monkeys is the safari station, where tucked away off the main path, it could be easy to miss one of the trail's smaller habitats, where you can find the red-billed hornbill. The inspiration for Zazu, these vibrant-billed birds are among the smallest members of the hornbill family. A hornbill's first two neck vertebrae are fused together to support the large curved beaks the group is named for. Compared to other hornbills, the red-billed hornbill spends a lot of time foraging on the ground. Their beaks are well designed for digging in search of insects and other tasty snacks. After grabbing your photo op with the station's obligatory safari vehicle, it's time to jump back on the main path. On your left, the view opens up, offering your first good look at the African journey's huge, central mixed species savanna. But we'll wait until we reach the other side, where I usually get the best view of its inhabitants, to meet them in detail. For now, we'll focus on what's on the right, continuing the start of the trail's wetland theme with great white pelicans. Despite what the great part of their name might lead you to believe, great white pelicans are not the largest species of pelican, but they are still among the world's largest flying birds, with a wingspan of over 11 feet. A pelican's specialized throat sac, called a gular pouch, that hangs from the lower half of their bill, can hold up to 3 gallons of water, 2 to 3 times more than what the bird can hold in its stomach. When the pelican is hunting, the pouch expands to act like a net for capturing fish. We're leaving the wetlands behind and entering our next biome, the Kopje, an isolated mound of rocks found among the grasslands. This Kopje begins with a simple yard for the white stork, whose bill-clacking courtship display looks and sounds like this. Immediately next to them are bat-eared foxes, who history shows you will usually find looking like this, but I did manage to get a little movement on my last visit. One of these individuals has actually featured on exhibit tours before, since female Ripley was part of a litter born at the Memphis Zoo in 2022 before moving to Fort Wayne to be a partner for the zoo's male Mac. It's not hard to figure out where bat-eared foxes got their names. With their 5-inch tall ears, they can hear insects moving under the ground, but their ears also serve the dual purpose of keeping the fox cool in their arid habitat. Along with termites, one of the bat-eared fox's favorite delicacies is dung beetles, which is why these foxes can often be found hanging around larger herbivores who provide the dung necessary to lure the beetles into a vulnerable position. Opposite the storks and foxes is the first of 2 cave-esque viewing areas, this one looking out into a larger open space for spotted hyenas, another species here that I have historically had trouble finding awake until my last couple visits, when I've had more luck with the zoo's hyena trio, twin sisters Ruckus and Havoc, who joined the zoo in 2020 from the Albuquerque Biopark, and 18-year-old male Askari, an original resident of the African Journey when it opened in 2009. Spotted hyenas live in a female-dominated world. Not only are female hyenas larger, but in a clan, even low-ranking females outrank the highest-ranking males. The spotted hyena's muscular neck and powerful jaws give them a bone-crushing bite force of 1100 psi, and the strong acid in their stomach allows them to digest almost anything. Despite the scavenger reputation, hyenas frequently take down their own prey and are formidable group hunters. Immediately past the hyenas, you can enter into a second cave, which offers a view of a long, grassy hillside with no visible barriers, one of the best lion habitats I've seen across the 30-plus zoological facilities I've visited. which makes it somewhat unfortunate that of all the species in the African journey, I have very little footage of the lions, but these days you'll still find female Ina, who recently celebrated her 19th birthday, and was joined earlier this year by Kayumi, another animal that has featured on exhibit tours before since he moved to Fort Wayne from Michigan's John Ball Zoo, after both lions had recently lost their previous mates. Back outside, you're met with a smaller meshed habitat for a much smaller African feline, the Serval. Look for 14-year-old female Serena, another longtime resident of the African journey, and the newer arrival Charlie, who joined Serena in 2022. Servals have the longest legs to body ratio of any cat, which coupled with their elongated necks gives them their nickname the Giraffe Cat. On my last visit, Serena was locked in on a wild bird, teasing us with anticipation, but fortunately for the bird, she chose not to pounce, since servals are amazing hunters. They are incredibly patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When they do, they can leap 10 feet in the air to catch birds. These abilities give them one of the highest success rates among felines at 50%. Next to the servals is a glass-fronted exhibit that originally held honey badgers, a rare sight in ACA zoos these days, so it is a shame that they were phased out after the last individual passed away in 2018. They were replaced by vulturine guinea fowl, but their stay only lasted a year or two before Cape porcupines, abaci, and stompers moved in. Cape porcupines are the largest rodents in Africa, weighing up to 66 pounds. The shorter, sturdy quills on their lower body are used for protection, while the longer, hollow quills, which grow to 20 inches long along the back, produce a warning rattling sound. Unlike New World porcupines, which are mostly solitary, Cape porcupines live in family groups composed of a monogamous pair and their offspring. They spend their days tucked away in burrows before emerging at night to feed on bark, roots, tubers, fruit, and other plant material. Despite this strictly herbivorous diet, porcupines will gnaw on bones to sharpen their teeth and obtain minerals. Switching sides of the path, making their first appearance at Exhibit Tours Episode 1, the Banded Mongoose. Banded mongooses are well known for their symbiotic relationship with warthogs, where a group of mongooses will groom the warthog, feeding on ticks and other pesky insects on the warthog's skin. While bugs make up a large part of a mongoose's diet, they will also take on larger targets, most notably snakes, including venomous snakes like cobras. While they are not immune to snake venom, a fast metabolism, quick blood clotting and tissue repair, and dense fur are just some of the adaptations that help mongooses avoid its fatal effects. And their lightning-quick reflexes allow them to avoid most strikes before they land. Immediately past them is a window looking into the far end of the lion habitat, where I often found Bahati, the zoo's previous male before his passing in 2024. Next to the window is the Wheel of Survival that invites you to pretend that you are a lion on the prowl, and spin to see the outcome of your hunt. I'll let you all decide whether or not I caught my prey, but either way it looks like it was a rough day for me. A short stroll down the path, through the tall grasses, the copy ends with a simple yard for critically endangered radiated tortoises, who would actually fit better in the next section since they inhabit the brush and thorn forest of Madagascar. The loss of this habitat is one of the reasons they are among the rarest tortoises in the world, along with illegal collection for the pet trade and food markets in some parts of the world. Radiated tortoises typically live between 40 to 70 years, but can exceed 100 years, and the oldest recorded radiated tortoise, named Tui Malila, was allegedly 188 years old at the time of her passing in 1966. After being offered another perspective of the central savanna, the path curves once again away from the savanna to the African village, which doubles as the African Journey's forest section. This area in particular has seen some shifting around of species in recent years. For example, until last year, the first caged habitat on your left displayed a pair of silvery-cheeked hornbills, but in 2024, they were replaced by Verreaux eagle owls, who moved over from an adjacent habitat. They are the largest owls in Africa and among the largest in the world, with a wingspan of over 5 feet, so it makes sense that they are also known as the giant eagle owl. They are unusually social for owls, engaging in social preening, and with at least one report of a family group that included offspring who were at least 3 years old. Continuing around the bend, straight ahead, our next species is more than a little out of place here. Leopards are found widespread across sub-Saharan Africa, however the individual you're looking at is Wyatt, a male Amur leopard hailing from the temperate forest of Russia and northern China. There is good reason for this rather egregious zoogeographic mix-up. While the African leopard is a vulnerable species facing population declines, they still number well in the thousands or possibly even hundreds of thousands. The critically endangered Amur leopard, on the other hand, number less than 200 individuals in the wild. Thus, the AZA made the decision to focus almost exclusively on housing and breeding Amur leopards in favor of other subspecies. In fact, Fort Wayne is far from the only zoo to display an Amur imposter in an African exhibit, but we will see some African leopards on an upcoming tour next year. Next door to Wyatt, you'll find a family of Brazza's monkeys, the largest species of genin, named for French explorer Pierre Sévernin de Brazza. Their scientific name, Neglectus, means pay no attention to, in reference to their elusive nature in the wild. At the top of the hill, you'll find more Allen swamp monkeys, this time rooming with one of the most common zoo primates, the mantled Guereza, or eastern black and white Colobus, who, a few years back, I was able to capture their iconic roar. Past them is a shorter caged habitat that was for many years reserved for African birds, but now you'll find another primate that is even more common in zoos than the colobus, the ring-tailed lemur. A species previously displayed in the Zoo Central, but were phased out when their former exhibit space became part of the Red Panda Ridge. After a 4-year absence, the species made its return in the form of twin brothers Owen and Murphy from the Indianapolis Zoo, this time appropriately displayed in the African Journey. Though you'd never guess it from their prevalence in zoos, ring-tailed lemurs are endangered in the wild, with a remaining population between 2,000 and 2,500 individuals. In fact, lemurs as a whole are the most endangered mammal group in the world, mostly due to habitat destruction on their native island of Madagascar. The former residents of the lemur habitat didn't move far, shifting over to the final of the 6 caged habitats that form the African village. This avian duo is comprised of African gray parrots, another endangered species partially due to collection for the pet trade, for which their incredible intelligence, charismatic nature, and ability to mimic human speech and other sounds make them coveted targets. And on the ground below them, look for the buff-crested bustard, known for their bizarre courtship where the male darts up in the air before falling only to catch themselves just before hitting the ground. Although the next habitat is visible from over by the lemurs and birds, to get the best experience you'll want to continue up the path and out onto an elevated deck. This of course is the giraffe feeding platform, which also offers a raised view of the entire simple yet spacious home for the zoo's herd of 6 reticulated giraffes. Currently consisting of 15-year-old male Azaji, adult females Mystic, Faye, Luna, and Lily, and the youngest Mila, who was born to Azaji and Faye on August 16, 2024. A giraffe's iconic spotted coat is unique to each individual, and the broken up pattern helps them camouflage on the African plains. A giraffe's favorite snack is acacia leaves. To deal with the tree's protective thorns, a giraffe's 18-inch long tongue is coated with a thick layer of saliva. In fact, an individual giraffe produces up to 12 liters of saliva daily, which also helps break down and extract nutrients from the leaves they feed on. Moving down the boardwalk is a vantage that gives the best view of the back half of the central savanna. While the views near the front of the trail are more cinematic, this side is where you can usually get closer to the savanna's residents, which include plain zebras. If any animal has a more iconic coat than the giraffes, it has to be the zebra's black and white stripes, which actually serve a very similar purpose, blending in with tall grasses when seen through a predator's eyes and making it hard for a predator to pick out a single target. Forming a dynamic duo with the zebras are white-bearded or blue wildebeest, a holdover species from the days of the African Veldt. In the wild, these two species team up to form one of nature's greatest spectacles, the Serengeti-Mara Great Migration, where millions of wildebeest and hundreds of thousands of zebras follow the range around Serengeti National Park through Kenya and Tanzania. The most thrilling moment of the migration is the crossing of the Mara River, when the zebras and wildebeest swim the gauntlet of crocodiles and other lurking predators. For the first 15 years of the African journey's existence, the zebras and wildebeest were the only mammals on the savanna until the arrival of Norman, a male bontebok, earlier this year, and the announcement of construction of an expanded savanna barn, also coming earlier this year, could pave the way for more additional species to be added in the future. Rounding out the current residents is Penny the ostrich, who is a bit of a local celebrity around here thanks to her curious nature and habit of following guests around the exhibit. Though they primarily feed on plant material, ostriches are actually omnivores and will eat insects, small reptiles and mammals, and even carrion. In the opposite trend from the savanna's mammals, the habitat used to feature more birds, including marabou storks and Ruppel's griffon vultures, the latter of which you can still find in a standalone habitat located between this overlook and the next, that held black storks until 2019. The marabou storks then moved in for a few years before being phased out entirely when it was turned over to the vultures last year. More specifically, you're looking at breeding pair Wednesday and Igor, who did produce a chick together back in 2011, though the chick was raised by zoo staff, since, as the zoo states, Wednesday and Igor have some work to do on their parenting skills, which may have something to do with their move off the savanna to this habitat. Their breeding success is important since the Ruppel's griffon vulture has experienced rapid population declines, largely due to feeding on poisoned carcasses, leading to the species being listed as critically endangered since 2012. As the boardwalk wraps around the vulture's yard, you're offered one more view of the giraffes, this time from the ground level. The views of the savanna continue for the remainder of the trail, including from the well-themed Zebra Research Station, as the safari trail fully encircles the savanna, guaranteeing you'll see all of its inhabitants somewhere along the way. Before you reach the exit, there's one more exhibit, returning to the wetland biome with Wattled Cranes. Another breeding pair, Hannibal and Starling, were brought together in 2023 and welcomed their first chick together back in August, who was named Sunny and who, unlike the vultures, they were able to raise themselves. Wattled cranes are among the largest cranes, standing up to 6 feet tall. Though they can be found in 11 sub-Saharan countries, more than half the world's population is located in Zambia, and over 80% of all wattled cranes live on 5 enormous floodplains across Zambia and Botswana. And past them, our journey officially ends with a backside glimpse of the Sitatungas, which concludes our walkthrough of not only the African journey, but as I stated in the intro, nearly the entire Fort Wayne Zoo. While they may lack a few things from their collection, like pachyderms and bears, as we've seen over the course of these tours, there is so much that makes this zoo worth visiting. For our next tour, we'll stay in Africa and check out one of the most uniquely designed exhibits I've seen on my zoo travels.